Hello, everyone. I am Miyaguchi from the Ethereum Foundation. First, I'd like to thank EDCON and the organizers for putting together this event and also for having me here. I have been speaking about Ethereum for the next year for a while. In fact, that I've been thinking about crypto for the next year for my entire crypto life. This happened to me naturally, and I think it will happen to you as well as you zoom out and think about where to look for next opportunity. First, I like to look at where these next billion people really are, where babies are born. People may know that developing or emerging countries account for over 80% of the world's population. This number shows the present state. But here's another way to look at this. There are 400,000 babies born every day today in the world. And out of the 400,000, more than 360,000 of them, yes, 90% of all the babies born today are born in the developing world. This lets you see the future state of humanity and illustrates who will be the next billion users of Ethereum. I should also say that when I say Ethereum for the next billion, I do not just mean the next billion users of Ethereum. It also means the next billion builders and all kinds of diverse participants in the ecosystem. So in other words, if we do not succeed in having them involved as the next billion members of the Ethereum ecosystem, that would mean Ethereum somehow failed to survive. Next, I look at this, where creative minds are. Innovation is no longer a privilege for people in developed or wealthy countries. As we have seen in the Global Innovation Index, innovations in developing economies show the world how to do more with less. This is because they cannot afford to do more with more, but they are also constantly using their brains to solve challenges right in front of them, even with the less developed infrastructure. And they do not need to unlearn the burden of the old systems. Now, as a first step in our effort to work with change makers and the next billion, we announced the Ethereum Foundation Fellowship Program earlier this year. The first cohort has 4 fellows, and their project themselves not only can create huge impact, but they also have potential to inspire others to learn from them and follow. I would like to introduce great examples of what I've talked today by having a conversation with one of the fellows, Chuy, who is doing an amazing job with his team OS City to guide the governments in Latin America to use blockchain as a solution. Now, let me bring Chuy here.
Hola, Chuy. ¿Cómo estás?
All good on this side. Todo bien. ¿Y tú?
Muy bien. So, Chuy is joining from Mexico. As you can see, he's in the dark.
North of Mexico it is?
Yes. So it's late time for you while we are recording this. Let's first start with I want you to introduce yourself to everyone, and then maybe share about your team and some of the projects you've been working on.
Yeah, definitely. So I have background as an engineer. I did a mechatronics engineering, then a PhD in artificial intelligence, because there was no blockchain at that time. So when blockchain appeared, I started jumping into what this technology can do for the world, which was my premise using artificial intelligence at the early stages back in 2010 maybe. So since 2014, more or less, I've been deep diving into what we call blockchain meets GovTech, which means how blockchain can serve as a government technology. So we have created a team. We're 4 co-founders and 10 teammates working on how governments, how the public sector can meaningfully adopt blockchains. So we have done a huge amount of projects, around 30 implementations in different public institutions across Latin America. Ranging from example from subsidies, traceability, to public purchasing, to police officers and city inspector badges, commercial permits, licenses, kind of transforming how typical official documents work into verifiable credentials anchored on the blockchain, and providing citizens now with citizen digital identities, which is a G20 top priority, right? So this is somehow where we are today.
Awesome. So I've been personally very curious about a lot of innovations in like emerging economies, but why, like what we call this GovTech? Why did you decide to get into this? Like, I know your team is mainly based in Latin America, right? And
Yep.
so I'm curious, why government? Why GovTech?
I'm not sure if I chose GovTech or GovTech chose me, so or dragged me or pulled me in somehow. So I remember I read one of the first books I read about blockchain. There was a quote that says, "It doesn't matter what you want to build with blockchain. Try to fix something that is broken or corrupt." So you kind of get what I'm trying to say, right? So when we think of Latin American governments, we typically see things that are not working well. Governments that cannot meet society's expectations, democracies living in crisis, an increasing social pressure. So I felt that even though most of us at the individual level, we don't want to mess with governments, or we don't want to deal with governments, actually governments they happen to mess with our daily lives, right? So if we try to fix or at least improve, even at a very small level, how the public sector works, you can end up improving the lives of many. You have said that with the concept of the next billion. So almost 600 million people in Latin America kind of fulfill that description of the next billion. So I believe that following this idea of having a meaningful life means pouring these kind of technologies into these kind of sectors. So I guess this is why I decided to do that, to feel that I'm building a meaningful life.
I see. So it makes sense. You didn't really try to start with the government. It's more like when you try to fix things, problem is right in front of you. Like you just realize you need to fix this part, and that was hugely tied to what government was doing.
You know, there was one time when I had the chance to meet Jack Ma, and one of his lessons was follow the money. So commercially speaking, it's about follow the money, right? Follow the cash and see where the cash is going and move your company towards there. When you have an impact-driven company, you're following problems. so following this problem trace led me into GovTech, right? I'm just curious, and I let you keep asking me, but just trying to bounce it back to you. I remember when you said to me that we made your work meaningful. And you have this concept of the Ethereum garden, right? And you work to make it sustainable and to thrive. So what's a meaningful work for Aya? What's that mean?
Awesome. Oh yeah, I like you bouncing questions back to me, and it's better to have interactive conversation. Yeah, thanks for asking. Well, first of all, I am a long-term thinker. I think I was born to be. So I'm not interested in anything that is not sustainable for the long term. Like you really have to zoom out and then think about, this looks great for now, but is it really great in 10 years and 20 years? And then so that the moment that I met crypto, I thought the opportunity was with next billion users, but then I wasn't very sure. You know, that was like 10 years ago. It was mostly still about Bitcoin, and I wasn't really very, very sure whether crypto can include all the people, all the participants that would really benefit from the technology. But then Ethereum was one, and I kind of like expand the way like anyone can participate as a builder, or you can build your own solution. And smart contracts also let you build any type of decentralized application. So that kind of expands the industries this can be part of. So any industry, and then also we include like the next billion builders or users into this, and then yeah, I said that yes, you help my work to be meaningful, because you do really like I've been talking about this for a long time, but finally I'm able to show examples. This is what I meant. This is, like without examples, it's really, I know you probably feel this talking with people from the government. They want to see examples. They want to hear like actual use cases. And so what I meant can kind of be explained with examples by the work like yours. So that is really, I think, meaningful to me.
Got it.
I can't really, yeah. So that's why I've been sharing the excitement, how excited I am to come here, because it's been the long work for me. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess that maybe, let's talk about the area, Latin America. Like I mentioned that the emerging economies are the source of creativity and innovation. But some say Latin American countries are still a little bit like slower on that end. But what are your realistic views on that?
I agree that Latin American countries are still slower, but this I agree when I think of entrepreneurial kind of things. Like if we think of Europe, if we think of the United States, when we think of it in Asia, investment, for example, venture capital is flowing super fast towards blockchain technologies, not only in fintech, but broad spectrum of what blockchain means today. And I'm talking about it, Ethereum rocks, that it's going crazy these days. The NFTs, have you read about it today? It's crazy. So will you see how fast that is spreading across the world? That doesn't spread fast in Latin America. So in that sense, Latin America is slower. But if we think of the moment that we are living, like exponential technologies, exponential change, I feel that Latin America, it's moving at an exponential rate in terms precisely of government increasing pressure. So it's social pressure, it's booming, it's going wilder than anywhere else in the world. Probably we share those characteristics, or we have those similarities with the next billion concept that we have. So in that sense, problems rise faster. And from an entrepreneurial perspective, or an optimistic maybe perspective, a crisis is a terrible time to waste. So it's multiple opportunities coming super fast to you. So this is what I see. I see slower resources in terms of boosting startups, boosting technology, but I see reality moving super fast and claiming for the urgency for you to bring new solutions to solve more opportunities, to gain more market, for example, in a commercial term, to jump into solving all these. So I believe it's a combination of both. Some things are moving slower, yes, but some things are moving faster. And when you have all these problems, when your context is a problem on top of a problem on top of a problem, then you have a lot of opportunities. You have a lot of chances to do, as you said, you have use cases.
Yeah. And then I just realized those use cases, but also like innovations can be more informal in Latin America, I think, because if you look at some index and numbers publicly, like when some people just look at the numbers, and then it can be like how many number of patents that have been filed or something like that. you know, like that doesn't really show everything, right?
Yeah.
So I've been seeing, including what you've been doing, a lot of interesting experiments are happening. That's very important for innovation to move to the next level, I think. So you don't, sometimes you just have natural sandbox of everything.
Exactly. I love the concept, natural sandbox. Yeah.
Well, you don't even need to put that box out there. You actually kind of entire probably region is sandbox in a way. So that's what I see the excitement. Yeah. So, you know, like each country, region, and culture has strength and weaknesses. What do you think are those for Latin American countries or countries you work with?
I guess, and I mean, you know, for example, that OSCT is a Mexican-Argentinian company, and having a Mexican-Argentinian company mixing those worlds, I mean, from the very north to the very south of Latin America, and with the differences at economic pressures that we have in Mexico and economic pressures in Argentina. So all those contrasts and similarities at the same time make me understand that we actually share the same strengths and the same weaknesses. We are just shifted in time. So for example, right now, Argentina is living what I feel that Mexico can evade to live in the next 5 or 10 years, economically speaking. Yeah, so we can learn from Argentina not to fall there. In Argentina, because of their economic, I mean, because of many other things, but simplifying things, because of their economic situation, they started adopting cryptocurrencies much earlier than any other country in Latin America. So this sense of finding a solution, an innovative solution, is kind of an strength of the weakness of our systems at the same time. So because everything is so vulnerable somehow, it's built on top of non-solid infrastructures, it's making us be brave enough to innovate or to jump or to believe in the next gold, right? So I guess this is some sense of, for example, I remember reading the biography, one of the books I read on the biography of Elon Musk, and I know how polemic he is for the crypto community right now, but sorry for using the example. But I remember he said, like, if I knew anything about banks, I will never have started PayPal. So this is a similar thing. If Latin Americans knew about economics and all this stuff, probably we will never adopt these new technologies, right? So it's a sense of naiveness that became our strength to build on top of our weaknesses, if I can put it somehow, trying to make a logic on how I feel we are moving in the right path, or at least being optimistic in the path that we are taking towards innovation for finding some solutions. But maybe you can tell me more. I mean, we started this conversation with an hola, so I know you lived in Mexico. I mean, it was in the middle of pandemic. It was a very particular moment for the world, but also for Mexico. So maybe what you saw is not the regular or typical Mexico, or maybe what you saw was the real Mexico, because we were actually out of our flesh because of the pandemic. So giving the good connection that I know you created with Mexico and with Latin America, what do you see? What do you feel that it's our weakness or strength?
Well, I mean, it's more of the latter, as you just said. Because of the pandemic, you know, I was in Mexico for almost 5 months, from the end of last year and also early this year. But I saw more of strength, or also like in comparison with other places, because I'm looking at, you know, Japan, where I'm from, or the US that I've been living, and it's just how people take the challenges how people face big challenges like this. It's a global pandemic, right? It's a scary thing, but I don't see Mexican people really freaking out. It's maybe I don't want to offend anyone to say this way, but it's more like it's really mental strength how to face, because okay, things happen, but what do you do with it, or how do you live within this? You can't just freak out and then just only think about death or the negative future. Well, it's more like they know how to still live. You have Dia de Muertos, Day of Death. So even like how to face things like death is really, and also another thing is, so that one of the fear from this global pandemic is economic damage, right? But I saw that, they don't really, it's not like, I heard some Mexican people feel bad for people in the US. They have to have money to be happy. I think that this is actually related to what I said about the entire place is sort of like a sandbox. And it also related to what you said. They don't need to learn things because, okay, like we don't really have to have a lot of things. Like we didn't really have a lot of things, but we actually are mentally, almost like mentally wealthy feeling. It's how I felt. And that's actually very, very powerful. Like I'm not even from there, but I felt very positive throughout the entire time. It was really great. And I'd love to go back. So, well, okay, let's talk about more of the projects that you've been working on. Like when I first met you in the beginning of 2019, it's been a while, but you shared a project with the city in Mexico, that uses blockchain to verify and prove that the police officer you're talking to is real. I was just blown away by this because the challenge is very local, right? So will you share the story behind this and then how this is going?
Mm-hmm. Good. It's a fun story. It all started with how can we teach people and public servants that blockchain is a technology of trust, and then we say who do we distrust the most, and then we fall into police. So it was fun, but it was actually a challenge that we were having at local government in the metropolitan area of Monterrey, where I'm right now in the north of Mexico, and they discovered that they had multiple fake police officers, and police officers borrowing their uniforms to other people or renting their uniforms, because it was kind of renting power, right? For bribing, for abusing power, you don't know. Maybe they just wanted to feel the adrenaline of being a police for a day, right? But that was happening. So we proposed that. We proposed let's create a verifiable credential and anchor it to the blockchain so that it's censorship resistant, so that even government cannot say like, hey, I didn't vote that credential. No, you did. So we used that the decentralization and transparency of blockchain to put those credentials in a QR on city inspectors, and the proposal was for police officers to wear a QR so that citizens can actually scan. And for city inspectors, which is the equivalent, imagine you owned a store, and they get to ask for either for a bribe or maybe to ask for your valid permit, and you say like, hey, let me first check if you are actually the inspector, and you scan the QR and you say okay. But at the same time that you're scanning and seeing the verifiable credential and comparing the hashes with the blockchain with the verify button, because following standards, besides that, you send a ping to main authorities, to their bosses, saying like, hey, this police officer or this city inspector is at this time at this latitude and longitude. And so that was actually increasing control inside government. So you were empowering citizens, making police officers behave, and bringing more control to the public sector. That was a project that happened with previous administrations. Still a huge challenge with the GovTech or with having governments as customers, is that every electoral time it's kind of a reset. So you need to start talking, you need to, and most of the times it's about political party. So you were a provider of the last political party, you are not friends with me. It doesn't matter if I like your technology. So that's a huge challenge. So that project kind of stood by. But fortunately, we just had elections last June. So in the first week of September, most of new mayors and governors are jumping into the government. And we have spoke to them about these projects. And they say, hey, you know what? I actually want to build one government agency that is for police and inspectors. So it's a central authority for this. And I say, well, provide that central authority with this decentralization superpower. So probably we're going to revive that project because actually, I guess this is one of the biggest challenges for people or the regular citizen to adopt blockchain is to understand it, right? To feel it, to do the behavioral change. And one way of nudging these people is actually to provide this kind of empowerment cases like, hey, you can trust a police officer, or at least shout out that he or she is not who he or she is saying is.
And then, like, you know, the listeners here it may be hard to imagine for people, but I actually felt the importance when I actually lived there. So I hope like you know, it can be more utilized.
It's a very big example when you're driving and you see the lights of the police officer.
Yeah, there are a lot of,
you feel
like you have to interact with them more often than I ever experienced in other countries. So it makes sense. And then, like, what's happening in Argentina, I know, like, you know, that's more recent.
Yeah,
maybe you can share more.
When I think about what's happening in Argentina, it's I mean, I'm as a Mexican, I feel like, wait, what should I need to do to make this happen in Mexico as well? But as a Latin American, I'm super proud, and I feel like half of my heart is also, but this has to do with World Cups in soccer. But half of my heart is Argentinian.
Well, so you can just inspire other, first, like starting with other Latin American countries. You definitely inspire, right?
Yeah, you know, as I drink mate and I do kind of things like that. But there are two major things that are happening in Argentina. The first one, it's cryptocurrency adoption, as I referred. It's a natural thing that is happening, similar to the natural sandbox that you were saying. And the second one, it's a generalized understanding among public servants about the potential of blockchain. So, for example, when I'm doing a sales presentation or a project proposal to a government or to a public servant, I typically need to do a pre-educational step, teaching about blockchain, teaching about cryptocurrency, saying what it's a wallet, saying what it's an identity, saying what it's a verifiable credential. And now, when you go to Argentina, most of the governments or most of the public servants, they already know. They actually say, oh, you're giving me a digital identity. Oh, yes. And it's, oh, is it a wallet? Shall I use MetaMask? So it's like, okay, they already know. So it feels like a really, really good place, like natural sandbox. I don't know if this is a moment, but can I show you a demo about how?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, let me do it. So I'm gonna show you how the platform and I'm sorry for when you said this is going on until the 27th, so it's gonna be okay. You can see Convertite Ciudadano Digital, right?
I can see it. Yeah.
So this is the province of Misiones digital citizen portal. What we have with most of the governments, it's a multiple official logins. So you have your national ID, your local ID, your state level ID, and so what we did was a way for citizens to be able to register on this platform and pick one of those, just the first time. For example, I'm getting the tax ID number of Lucas, you know Lucas, my co-founder. So let me log in with the tax ID of Lucas. There it goes. So here I'm going to the official Argentinian portal. So it's this is the user 2021 29 28. There you go. So if there's a hacker seeing this video and you can type this password, please pay Lucas taxes. So I'm logging into the platform. What I'm doing right now is asking the government of Argentina to do the job of telling me that Lucas is actually Lucas, right? Because I have his credentials. So I'm going back. There he goes. So it pulled the name of Lucas and the ID of Lucas, and now I'm gonna give the platform an email and a password. Just lucas@oscity and a password, clicking next, and then it's going to ask me to install an app. And if you can see my face right now during the call, this is the app. City missions, how can you see it? How can I change the brightness? There you go.
Yeah.
Barely see it, right? So I'm gonna log in here with the recently provided email and password. So, and what I'm logging in here, now it says, you cannot see it, but it says, we are creating your document holder. So it's asking for the Ethereum blockchain to provide me a wallet, and then see my screen. Congratulations, you are digital citizens of the province of Misiones. So right now, what just happened is that I used an official login from the government of Argentina, doesn't matter the level, to get my account with the government of Misiones. And now here on the app, I created my wallet, my digital ID, my public address and private key as well. And now here I can port all my credentials. So you can see, for example, here I'm opening a credential. This is my ID, and you have all the details of that ID. This is written on the LatAm blockchain, which is an Ethereum compliant blockchain built by the IDB, the Inter-American Development Bank, Latin American and Caribbean blockchain. They subsidize transactions, so this is a good thing for again for the natural sandbox. And then we have a verify button to do all the verification on the blockchain. With this, from there on, and if you're seeing my screen, I can build all the different certificates. This is Lucas. I always tested this with Lucas, so I have multiple same certificates for Lucas. But essentially, what we have built is a way to I will say a game-changing thing for governments. Instead of a government providing you your digital identity or your official login, you are telling the government who are you as a self-sovereign identity, and link that to an official or recognized or regulated ID that they have. You do that one time, and then the government start issue credentials to yourself and anchor them on the blockchain for censorship resistance. And that's changing the game. That's changing the game. And in that sense, it's happening. And I remember when I was in the OECD back in 2019. And I jumped into stage and I shared like 20 different use cases, and they said like, "Whoa, who are you? Why is this possible?" And I will say that this is possible because we have no regulations at all. This is Disneyland to build things. so we can create these things. We can experiment. We can try during using this natural sandbox, as you said, and try to build regulations after we learn what's best.
Yeah. And then some of the regulations that are normal or common in the other places, that might not be necessary because this is like a new infrastructure you're building.
Definitely. Yeah. If we think about the automotive industry back in the day, it developed because of streets and roads. So decentralization today is building because of blockchain, and we are leveraging that inside governments.
Yeah. And that's how you can do with less. This is like
When you said this, for example, at the very beginning, you say, and innovators in developing economies show the world how to do more with less, right? Something like that you said. So it's very accurate, but I will say it's from the perspective of regulations again, like having less politics makes an open field to innovation and to do more and maybe build the future. If we think about, and this is what happens most of the time. So like we think about fixing the present instead of building a future, right? And I guess this is the chance that we are having. And this is actually what is happening in Argentina, in Brazil, in Chile, in Colombia, and even in Mexico. As a company, but beyond a company, as a pursuers of a meaningful life, we are living a beautiful moment, and we want that to last, and we want regulators to first understand what we are doing for regulations to come afterwards and try to learn. So from that perspective, and again, trying to bounce back questions to you, there is a huge moment for the Ethereum community that is coming with Serenity or ETH 2.0, and a great potential for blockchain to meeting GovTech and maybe other industries. So from your position and from the visionary that I know you are, what would you say to the regulators?
Well, a lot, but to keep it simple, well, Ethereum is a public blockchain. So being saying it is meant to be really great for anything public, right? So it's supposed to be great for the public sector to, I think a lot of regulations, existing regulations, and also like additional ones that are being considered is, it's getting a little too much, meaning it's supposed to be win-win, but so I really want anything to, like, I don't want anything to be lose-lose, like if you add something too much and then you can't really take it back. But this is supposed to be actually make things win-win for, it's not like like crypto against the government, it's more like working together to make it a win-win. So that's why I'm very, very excited about what you're doing, your team is doing, and hopefully we can share more of examples from your work to the rest of the world, not just to Latin America. That's I already said this to you when when we made the decision to have you as a fellow, is really to inspire the entire world. And I think you're doing it, but like we just want to share that more to others.
Thank you, Aya. Thank you. That's huge for us. That's
that's huge for me, great. For us. Yeah, so really appreciate your work. And then, sorry, I think we are running out of the time, but this was great. And then I'm pretty sure people want to hear more about the details of your project and your work. How do they find you? How do they find your work?
I mean, you can go to our website, os.city, or write to me, just letter J for Jesus, my initial, j@os.city. Or you can even see a PDF of what I just showed as a demo at corporate.os.city.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, Chuy.
Thank you, Aya, for giving us the space and the time to share. And thank you for this beautiful conversation as well.
Of course. Looking forward to doing more like this. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chuy.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening. Bye.